Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, way down by the river, way down by the riverside.
My name is Kevin Brown. I'm the Community Services Manager for the City of Evanston, and I want to briefly explain to everyone who's here how the Kingian Nonviolence and the training that our staff has undertaken has a connection to the City of Evanston. In sort of presentation, we want to share with you how we have been impacted by the training, the Kingian Nonviolence training and philosophy of Dr. Martin Luther King. And one of the things that I think is very important to know is that the Youth and Young Adult Division is modeled after a comprehensive gang intervention approach from the federal government. And we utilize what they do. They help people to get employment, they help people to get housing, they help people to get health care, they help people in their financial problems that they have and trying to right them with some financial literacy. We're going to hear from them right now. Nathan Norman, Lachisa Barton, Lachisa is one of our participants, Stacey Moragne, Jermey Mccray, and the fabulous Porschia Davis.
And I'd like to say that I'm humbled to be here this evening and also to be a part of this event. The Kingian Nonviolence training has really gave us as a staff more tools and more support to further our outreach efforts within the City of Evanston. Especially when we go into the schools, District 65, District 202, to help the young people and which we have a young person here who can attest to some of that, but it has helped us to do our part and contribute to the beloved community, as Dr. Martin Luther King would say. It's helping us to go out and further advocate for these young people and to show them also that nonviolence is truly a way of life for courageous people. And we exemplify that every day, myself and our staff, and I'm proud to say that I am a Kingian Nonviolence trainer.
Hello everyone, my name is Lachisa Barton. I am also a youth and young adult outreach worker, and I'm going to share with you some of the work that we did this summer. The beloved community is the framework for the future. The nonviolent concept is an overall effort to achieve a reconciled world by raising a level of awareness, relationships among people to a height where justice prevails and persons attain their full human potential. This summer, our youth, Lachisa was one of them, and Young Adult Division proposed a 6-week life skills and conflict resolution pilot project which focused on the Kingian Nonviolence 6 principles. Through our daily canvassing of the community, we noticed that there were particular groups of individuals who were involved in physical and verbal altercations. The outreach team was able to target the hot locations of the involved parties through social media and several connections that contacted us to let us know when something was emerging. The students involved were all incoming freshmen or 8th graders from various community schools. We noticed them meeting at different parks and meeting at several high-risk neighborhoods to hang out and plan retaliation to the opposing sides. Using the rapport that we have in the community, we were able to properly identify the ringleaders who shared their side of the story and explain why they were having beef with one another. We discussed the possibility of bringing together all the leaders to show them how they can set a positive example to their peers by working together and overcoming obstacles. Over the period of 6 weeks, the Kingian Nonviolence training provided skills needed to pursue nonviolent and peaceful approaches in resolving conflict. Although the program was for a limited period of time, we were able to exceed the original outcomes for the participants. The youth improved their communication and life skills. They reconciled relationships with one another while engaging and learning without realizing their own potential.
And 3 things that they taught us was violence, nonviolence rivalry, and nonviolence two people that have a problem, and then the hyphen is the person in the middle that stops them from having an altercation with each other. But that's only temporary until the hyphen moves, and then two people have an altercation again. And then nonviolence without the hyphen is absolute peace without any violence or anything like that.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rod Joy. It's an honor to be here to help celebrate the Addie Wyatt Center and all those who teach the skill and the will of nonviolence. This is personal for me for several reasons. First, it's personal for me to be back in Evanston. I'm a proud Evanstonian. I started my professional career at the McGaw YMCA. I participated in college in something called AmeriCorps, and I worked as a tutor and mentor in a local elementary school in downstate Illinois. That motivated me to come back and get involved in community work. And I will say that it makes me proud to see Nathan Norman, a young man who, boy, you've come a long way. But that makes me proud. It makes me proud to see you step up like that. So it's personal for me because I'm from Evanston. It's great to be here. This issue of violence is personal for me. You know, I dream about a world without violence. And 4 months ago, we lost our son, Xavier Joy, to senseless gun violence in Chicago. June 8th, 2017 was the worst day of my life as I endured any parent's worst nightmare. Since that horrific day, our focus has been how to prevent other parents, other families from experiencing the anguish and sorrow caused by senseless violence. I will say that I'm inspired by the work that's happening here today. I look forward to learning more and perhaps going through the training. I think a lot of the Kingian Nonviolence is consistent with some of my core beliefs. The belief that people who love and care about their community have the power to change it for the good. The belief that real change and lasting change comes from the bottom up, not the top down, but from the bottom up, starting with the hopes and aspirations of everyday people in service to their community. I think one of the 6 steps of Kingian Nonviolence is a commitment to long-term change. There's this idea that change doesn't happen overnight. And a lot of people forget that the Montgomery bus boycott took almost 400 days. I think about Adlai Stevenson when I think about this long-term commitment, and he had a quote around patriotism that I think is quite fitting. And this idea that patriotism is not the short, frenzied outburst of emotion, but it's the slow, steady, tranquil dedication of a lifetime. And particularly for the young people who are here today, I hope you stay on this path of service and a commitment to social change.
So, Kingian Nonviolence is a fresh, comprehensive way to address violence. It's not a passive form of nonviolence. And what I mean by that is it's a very active form of nonviolence, because to be a truly nonviolent person, one must be actually courageous, because it takes a lot to sustain yourself and not give in to if someone is, antagonizing you or bullying you or even the injustices that we see on a national scale. So when I think about Kingian Nonviolence and how it's changed me, it's given me a different lens, a different scope to now view situations and encounters in ways in which I wouldn't have handled them before. And so when I talk about what is violence, I used to think violence was just somebody attacking me, somebody throwing something, somebody acting obscene, someone injuring someone else. But violence is actually that, as well as injustice as a whole. violence is when we have people that get pulled over for tickets and can't afford a bail, and they're in the county jail for umpteen months. That's violence. They're exposed to all sorts of different conditions and circumstances. Violence is when a person from a poverty-stricken environment can't afford the right legal consultation because they've been, for lack of a better term, they've been, unjustly incarcerated by police or targeted. So it's given me a new scope and a new lens, a new way to really acknowledge what violence is and to truly separate what justice is opposed to injustice. Just giving me a different, fresh approach to look at things, how to handle things. It's also giving me more tools to help other community partners and other people who were just like me, who truly weren't aware. So that's one of the ways it's helped me change.
So when you say, it's made you aware of different kinds of violence and what counts as violence, what does it do in terms of how you as an individual respond to violence? Like in terms of not responding to violence with violence?
So what it helps me do, so with that awareness, it brings me to a different level of how I conduct myself about different situations that I even put myself in. It helps me to kind of safeguard against things. So before I see, it's an old saying that says, if you don't drink, then you shouldn't go to the bar for the peanuts. So it helps you to really, really safeguard and to be proactive and to spot different situations and environments that aren't conducive. It also helps you just to have it helps you to understand people that aren't cognizant of the things that you are. It helps you to understand why they react the way that they do. So it helps you navigate around situations and people and different things like that may be prone to violence. And when you really get them to thinking about it, and you start educating them with the same things that you know, then they start to think about what are they doing, and it helps you to control yourself. So it helps you to think more clear and to take a fresh approach.
So as an outreach worker, have you found that you've actually been able to reach other people in Evanston?
Absolutely. And what I found also is that the younger crowd really gravitate towards the Kingian Nonviolence. They like this new, fresh approach. They adopt this method of nonviolence because they themselves are like, wow, not only is this something that I didn't know, but it's actually cool to advocate against violence. I don't have to be the bully. I don't have to respond on social media just because somebody said my outfit was ugly, because it gives them tools and it equips their mind with a different way to strategize and assess situations.
So you think that you've really changed people's attitudes and maybe prevented a gun violence incident?
Absolutely, on several different occasions, but not just that, but it's become pervasive because they then go and tell, each one teaches one. So then they then go and tell somebody who, it could have been an altercation that was looming that I didn't even know about, but since they planted that seed, now that's not happening. And if we all continue to do that, we'll create a culture of positive peace and positive change, which will result in nonviolence. And so, yes, it's been we've met with high school students as well as middle school students. Everything from fist fights, everything to knife altercations to looming gun violence. And Kingian Nonviolence Training has been intricate and instrumental also in stopping some of that violence before it came to fruition.
And do you think if you had known about this as a teenager, would you have had a different kind of life? Would you have dealt with things differently than maybe you did?
Absolutely. I wouldn't have been more prone to get in a fist fight. I wouldn't have been more prone to care what people thought about me if I had known what I know now. And what I mean, I'll highlight this for you. I'll annotate this. If when I look at the fearless, courageous people that were stripped from lunch counters, that were hosed down and that composed themselves and said, I'm better than that. When people go low, I go high. Had I known that at 14, and now I'm, 14 years plus, I think it would have equipped me in a much better way than even I could even imagine right now today. Is that Kingian Nonviolence is definitely a way of life for courageous people, and it's been very, very instrumental in the City of Evanston's Youth and Young Adult Street Outreach Program. Definitely.